This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
5 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to what I'm sure you will agree, another exciting edition of the Dr. Sky Experience, proudly here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. We love this particular radio program, and no, even more so, you tell us you do. And we appreciate you and all the emails that we get here. To email me, we encourage you to do so at DRSKY, Dr. Sky at WABCRadio.com. And to listen to all the popular podcast archives, not only of this particular radio show, but all the great hosts here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. Of course, it's www.wabcradio.com and redappleaudionetworks.com. And first, I'd like to thank our helmsmen, both Tony and Bill, navigating this particular radio signal out to the cosmos and beyond, navigating the powerful signal of 77 WABC to you, to yours across the nation, the world, and I'm even sure out into the cosmos. As we wish you a great evening and a good morning, and welcome to your weekend as we move deeper into our weekend. You know, ladies and gentlemen, something very interesting is about to happen here on this particular archive and this particular iteration of the Dr. Sky Experience. Last month and the month before, a very special guest who you tell us you like so much by the number of emails and the phone calls that you're getting and giving us. He's none other than Patrick Wood. His website, technocracy.news, and for the next 2 hours we'll be talking with Patrick about the latest that's happening with the world of AI and other things that he will be talking about, technocracy and transhumanism. But first of all, ladies and gentlemen, 3 things all mankind is seeking. Simply freedom, prosperity, and peace. But the revolutions which freedom made possible are the Industrial Revolution, the Machine Revolution, the Transportation Revolution, and then moving rapidly into the next century beyond, we talked about the Communications Revolution, the Energy Resource Revolution, and now the Computer Revolution. In the movie Terminator, there was a system of governance by computers known as Skynet. Are you ready for the Great Reset? As many would say, you will own nothing, and you would be happy. So much more to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, on this particular show, the Dr. Sky Experience, where we normally talk about the subjects of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, and that of American exceptionalism. And as we've mentioned many times before, of the 4 types of conversation, we obviously like dialogue the best. Not debate, not discourse, and not diatribe. And in order to do that, we ask kindly that you join us at 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222, which simply stands for WABC. You know, it's interesting, when we had Patrick Wood here on the radio show, we were talking about something he was promoting so that the eyes and ears of the world would pay attention to a documentary called The Agenda, Their Vision and Your Future. And before we introduce our guest, Patrick Wood, I thought it appropriate to play the intro of The Agenda, Their Vision and Your Future. And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished author, Mr. Aldous Huxley.
Brave New World is a fantastic parable about the dehumanization of human beings. In the negative utopia described in my story, man has been subordinated to his own inventions. Science, technology, social organization, these things have ceased to serve man. They have become his masters.
Aldous Huxley's novel portrays a dystopian future under the dictatorship of a world state, where every aspect of human life is controlled, from laboratory creation to the grave. He described the story as fantasy, but later wrote, "The prophecies made in 1931 are coming true much sooner than I thought they would. The nightmare of total organisation has emerged and is now awaiting us, just around the next corner.
With the rise of brain-computer interfaces and biometric sensors and so forth, all the bodies, all the brains would be connected together to a network, and you won't be able to survive if you're disconnected from the net.
All life on Earth is going to be radically changed.
It's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. It's changing who we are.
These people have gotten to the point now where they are openly anti-human.
Everything will be monitored. The environmental consequences of every human action.
They cannot happen without digital ID.
Once the digital ID is in place, it's game over for humanity.
We'll be talking about technocracy and transhumanism and getting better definitions, ladies and gentlemen, of both. To introduce our special guest, Patrick Wood is a leading and critical expert on sustainable development, green economy, Agenda 21 and 2030, and historic technocracy. He's the author of Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order, Technocracy Rising, the Trojan Horse, that is, of global transformation, and co-author of Trilateralists over Washington. Wood remains a leading expert on the elitist Trilateral Commission, their policies and achievements in creating their self-proclaimed new international economic order, with the essence of sustainable development on a global scale. It gives me great pride to introduce our special guest, Patrick Wood. Good evening, Patrick, and thank you for continuing to talk about these important topics, technocracy and transhumanism. How are you?
Thank you, Steve, for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about technocracy for sure.
Well, I really appreciate you, and in case people weren't listening, and we certainly would like as many new callers in addition to the great guests that we have here on this radio station. Let's try for some new callers around the nation, around the world on such a subject like this at 1-800-848-9222. But Patrick, go ahead and give us the definitions of both of these topics in case people out there, which they're curious. We always like to talk about expanding people's minds. Define technocracy and transhumanism for us.
You bet. That's a tall order. However, we can see technocracy going back to the 1930s, where it was coined initially at Columbia University. That was a very prestigious college in those days, very progressive, of course. The scientists and engineers at Columbia, that was during the Great Depression, they thought they could do better with their own economic system they called technocracy. They thought that that would be the replacement for free enterprise and capitalism, and it failed basically, like by the end of the 40s, in any case. But it came back with the Trilateral Commission in 1973, when it was adopted as the new international economic order by the Trilateral Commission, and the rest is history, I believe. Yes. But we see it all around us today. They said it was the science of social engineering, plus it was an economic system that was designed to deliver goods and services to all people everywhere, and the technate, as they called it. And this is what we have today, and it's surrounding us with these technocrats in Washington, D.C. these days. And it's unmistakable at this point what the plan is and has been for a long time. As for transhumanism is another philosophy, but it's joined at the hip with technocracy, because transhumanism promises humans 2.0 to live in the newly reset world, if you will. That's what Klaus Schwab calls the great reset of the economic system.
Yes.
And so you have the transhuman people will be populating this new world, they think. It's crazy idea, I understand, but this is where it's going at this point.
Very interesting. Good definitions, Patrick. And doing a little research on my own here, and I'd like people to jump in as to whether or not they're alarmed at some of this stuff, which is obvious the understatement of any talk show host. I would be remiss and think I'd living in a dark cave if I wasn't concerned, like many of you out there, about what's happening. But on the lighter side, Patrick, I think you would agree the three pillars of transhumanism seem to be super intelligence, super longevity, and super well-being. And many people may wonder what's so bad about all that if it's a positive to human nature. But let's go back to the three tenets that I mentioned before. This is something that I didn't invent, nor do I take credit for it all, just reading it, and it makes sense to me. The three things that all mankind is seeking is freedom, prosperity, and peace. And in today's world, I think we'd get a good argument that many of those things are certainly not coming true. Please expand on that.
Exactly. This is the scourge of humanity at this point, and transhumanism and technocracy are altogether anti-human. I just need to get that on the table. It's anti-human. Yes. It's anti-freedom. It's anti-privacy. It's anti-everything as far as we're concerned. And these technocrats, they have this mechanistic attitude that they think that they're saving the world. The world doesn't need to be saved by these people, especially. But they think they can do it, and they're applying their own policies to get this stuff in place, like with AI and other policies, cryptocurrency, that kind of stuff in Washington D.C. And nobody asked for this in the first place. This was all on their own initiative.
Yes, Patrick. You know, this appeal goes out to everybody listening around the nation, around the world, because of the powerful signal of Talk Radio 77 WABC. Simply, folks, do you even care about this stuff? Do we sound alarmist? Do we sound like we're talking about conspiracy theory? I tend to think not, but that's why we bring better people than myself to the table to discuss with the factual details that this individual brings. Your website is simply what? Technocracy.news. I just wanted to get that out early so people can, of course, scour your website and look at so many of the other topics that are coming up. That's the correct website, I do believe. Correct, Patrick?
Yes, it is. Technocracy.news.
Let's talk about this. We found out that the government, our government, the United States of America, passes something called the Genius Bill. And I know, and of course you are an economist, so I think that's a fair assessment to ask you. Give us your take from the technocracy situation that you stand tall on. How is that bill going to affect anybody out there, and the good and the bad of what you might see there, so people understand this better if they've just heard this on radio and television and say, what the heck, I'm not a genius. But what does the Genius Bill mean to them?
This is a messy topic for sure. It has to do with cryptocurrency, especially the alternative to central bank digital currencies. And when I say messy, there's three bills floating through right now and through Congress. The first, the Genius Act, that's been signed into law, I think just yesterday. So that's on the books now. Another bill coming has been passed by the House, and it's been sent to the Senate. That's another companion bill, if you will, called let's see what I want the Stable Act. That stands for stable coins. The other act bill is just going to vote soon in the House. Then it'll be passed to the Senate. All these three bills are working together at this point to change the regulatory structure to accommodate this new system of payments and digital currency, if you will, called stable coins. And this is cryptocurrency that is based on blockchain that has the potential to record every transaction that we make. Everything. Yes. All transactions can be monitored, and they can be stored for later retrieval, so that the government, for instance, they could find out everything that you did along the way. This is a stunning initiative, because since the first of the year, since Trump was inaugurated, in any case, and at the end of January, this whole initiative has been privatized, turned over to the tech companies to make the regulatory framework and the thing to work. like the nuts and bolts of the cryptocurrency system.
I hear you.
And at this point, apparently they're going to have a complete system probably within a month or two from now, and this has all been privatized. They've done it like a startup company, if you will, in Silicon Valley, and this is something that Klaus Schwab probably would never have been able to do in 10 years with the way he was going about it. So at this point, this is stunning development. The whole thing has been privatized. The Fed has been banned from issuing consumer-oriented central bank digital currencies. That'll never happen again. But when these people, when they have something on the table that they want to do, and you can't do it from a institutional point of view, they pass it off to a private company to achieve it. That's exactly
Patrick,
what's happening.
This is kind of scary to me in a way, and let me just say why. I mean, I hope, and all my hopes that I have, maybe that's not as important as what people do who obviously are hearing this radio show to preserve their integrity, to have choices in this world. So I'm hoping they don't ever try to phase cash out. But it seems like I sound naive because it seems all indicators are that, hey, if you have a digital currency out there and you have a way to track every purchase, how many people out there would actually call this radio station right now at 1-800-848-9222 and tell me? Maybe there's somebody that would say, I can't wait, Steve, Dr. Sky, Patrick Wood, I can't wait till they take away my cash. I can't wait until they go ahead and make everything I do trackable because, you know what? I have nothing to hide. So go ahead and do it. But, Patrick, not to be facetious on my side here and sound childish at all or naive, and certainly not. This is amazing, and I'm amazed. Everywhere I go, I speak to people like everybody out there, and I throw these questions at them in kind of a lighthearted way. Hey, you think they're ever going to get rid of your cash? What would you say if they did? And everybody I talk to is going, they'll never do that. And I said, really? They'll never do that, right? But Patrick, that's only one of the many sharp barbs on this imperial fence that guards and takes away the freedoms and prosperity and peace of individuals. How could anybody really seriously want that kind of a world? And I gather there are people out there that might, and maybe we'll hear from some of them. But that's one of many things, Patrick, that I'm concerned about. I don't invest in digital currency. I don't know enough about it. And if it was something so great, I probably would have looked at it. But it seems to be going. So in summation, the Genius Bill is, in your terms, I think you've given us a good overview, but what should people be so careful about? Have you read it? And if you haven't, what might be in the fine print that we really need to know about?
Well, I have read it, and basically it's setting up this digital currency separately from the Federal Reserve and the bank, with cash and debt and et cetera, everything we've been used to up to this point. The problem with cryptocurrency is it's been so fragmented over the last 15 years or 10 years. You have this different regulatory bodies that wants to play with it in Washington, D.C. This has all been revamped, rewritten. In other words, a regulatory structure has been rewritten with the Genius Act, and that was the point. Because now all the other agencies, they're not going to pay attention, but this new agency or the new system will be run by them without regulation. Well, this is not a good thing in general. The reason that we have monetary policy watchdogs, et cetera, in Washington, D.C., there's a reason for that. So, we don't want the private industry to run this whole thing without regulation. So basically,
Patrick, I wish we had more time on that particular part of the subject topics that we'll be jumping into. But in a few minutes, when we go to hit that hard break at the bottom of the hour, I just wanted to talk about something that I'm starting to notice here in Arizona, and I'm sure many listeners around the nation, and I'm sure even in the world are seeing. I'm seeing here in the Phoenix area these gigantic buildings that look like they popped up It's incredible. They just popped up out of nowhere, and I'm talking like big as some of these big Amazon warehouses, but they're not Amazon warehouses. They're these data centers. And you have an article that you list, of course, on Technocracy News here, and I just tease us to this to the bottom of the hour here, because Zuckerberg focused on building mega gigawatt-sized data centers. And many people may say, well, gee, if that improves my speed on my internet, well, maybe I'm in favor of it. But the reality is, talk about the power usage that these things are sucking up, the water usage, and how anti-human the whole damn thing is if you're building these massive control locations to do what? Look at everything we do, spy on us, capture all our data. Talk about it.
That's exactly right. We have all these companies now, like Meta, Google's another one, Amazon another, OpenAI. All these companies are building data centers that are just ginormous at this point. They're unbelievably large. We have several here in Mesa, even.
Yeah,
and I look
Mesa,
at it,
Arizona,
I just marvel. It's incredible.
Yeah, I know.
So what Meta is proposing at this point, that's Mark Zuckerberg, by the way, what he's proposing is to build a data center that will consume 5 gigawatts watts of power. That's enough power to light up 4 million homes. That's more, I think, that's more than the Phoenix area altogether.
It sure is. And Patrick, on another note, which is depressing, I have some friends, of course, like many do in California. And when the winds blow strong, since the Paradise Fire and the other horrible fires they've had, they simply shut down the power for you and I, let's say, and my good friend. He's lost 3 refrigerators filled with food because the power's out. So the point is, somebody else is sucking up all this power. And let me say this. So I'm fair to everything here, and that's a hard thing in this world sometimes, but I'll be fair and humble. It's amazing. If they want to build these things, there shouldn't be any, quote, restriction per se on building a building. But the point is, what are they doing inside that building? That's the concern that I think most people should have. Why are we building this super infrastructure? What's its intent and purpose? And obviously, this is something where it seems like it's an unstoppable thing. So I hope by the end of the 2 hours, and we have some callers that will be coming up here. We won't forget you, ladies and gentlemen, because that, in my opinion, what makes a great radio show. Not the host, it's the guests and the callers at 1-800-848-9222. But, Patrick, these are some of the things that we really need to get into here. But I'm hoping at the end or close to the end of the 2 hours, we'll offer some solutions to people, because so many times you get people who talk about a problem, but they never really express, and I'm sure you have a lot of solutions to this as we end the program coming up in almost 2 hours.
You bet. Well, we're going to talk about, exactly. We'll talk about not just the massive power drain that these systems are consuming, but the most important thing is they're based on the concept of control. Controlling the data will control the source of the data. We're the source of the data.
Absolutely.
And in the end of it, we're going to be the object of the control mechanism, the feedback loop, if you will. And this is totally disturbing, considering how many of these data centers are being established all over our country.
You're absolutely right, Patrick. We're coming up to that hard break here. But just before we do that, I want to reiterate one more thing, folks. I never wrote a book yet in my life. I probably will soon. But that's another story. But it's about freedom. It's about prosperity, and it's about peace. And is there anybody out in the radio audience that would argue that all 3 of those things that I just mentioned, that Patrick is talking about to preserve, is something odd and something that we should just simply dismiss? Because remember, the revolutions that we had which freedom made possible, industrial revolutions, machine revolutions, transportation, communications, energy, and now we're moving into the computer world. And that's something interesting, ladies and gentlemen. You all remember the Terminator movie, right? And that's interesting, where they had this thing, not me, I didn't make it, I'm Dr. Sky, but they had something called Skynet. And if you think about this, the genius behind these sci-fi movies of the past with Arnold and many other actors and actresses, Skynet was not your friend, ladies and gentlemen. The Great Reset, and as many people have said, I know, Patrick, you've said it many times, you will own nothing and you will be happy. More with Patrick Wood. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the line, like Lamar in Manhattan, stay with us. Tony in Phoenix, Arizona, and you, ladies and gentlemen, still time, plenty of time, 1-800-848-9222, the Dr. Sky Experience. Now takes a momentary break. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
As we continue here at 31 minutes after the hour, an appropriate quote from a person named Matthias Desmond, an author of Psychology of Totalitarianism, and it goes like this. Totalitarianism and technocracy like to present themselves as the pinnacle of rationality and science. As we continue with our special guest, Patrick Wood, let's now, ladies and gentlemen, go to the phone calls, and let's say good morning to Lamar in Manhattan. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you this morning?
Good evening, sir. With great interest, we have listened to yourself and your guests.
I'm sorry, Lamar. We can hear you clearly. I don't know if Tony will give it another try back there. Or is he still on the line, Tony? All right. Hopefully, Lamar, try to call us back, Lamar in Manhattan. Now let's say good morning to Tony out here in our state of Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona. You are on with Patrick Wood. How you doing there, Tony?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you, Steve, and thank your guests for getting here on 77 WABC and talk about things like this. Earlier, you were bringing up several different things, the Bitcoin and all the other things. But look, with this, everything's running at like breakneck speed right now. In the last 6 months of this presidency, look how many things have been getting done. And what are they going to be affecting right now is, I think, some of the other things we need to be looking at, like over the horizon. Like, let's say with the Bitcoin, the energy development for all the AI, the data centers, things like that. Mm-hmm. How is that going to affect our precious metals, gold, silver? And I think right now the big thing would be copper in order to get all that electricity, wired up to all these data centers. Where are we going to be standing, let's say 6 months from now?
Well, Patrick, you got the floor because Tony brings up some really technical things, and I think so important to respond to.
I think you're right. The issue about copper, by the way, that's a very astute observation. You have to have copper for all these things, especially electrical things. And I'm just looking at the price of copper right now. I remember just a few years ago it was down about $2.50 or so. Right now it's just cruising at today $5.58.
Wow, big change.
That's huge. Yeah, so you're right. Copper might be the sleeper metal to buy at this point, but you'll see probably gold is going to be continuing and silver as well. And this is because the currency system is switching over from a debt-based system to an asset-based system. So no deference to gold at this point. It is a safe asset. You can't nobody can take it away from you once you have your hands on it. It's a secure asset. But,
and you're right. You're right, Patrick, and Tony too, that these rare earth elements that people are now, other countries are preserving, they're digging, they may even go to war over these kind of things, and all of them, not only are just not used in the defense industry, but they're used far and wide in the computer side of the world too. So, Tony, in Phoenix, give us a quick summation. Any other concerns that you have before we move up? We get in the caller board lighting up pretty
I wouldn't say as much a concern as just observation, because really the way things are going right now, we're sitting in the catbird seat right here in the United States of America. We have all the energy to power all this electricity. It's going to do all these things for us and provide exports for other people. We are number one, USA.
Let's hope we stay number one. Exactly. Tony, thank you for your time with us this morning, and for everybody else that wants to jump in on this conversation. We have so much to report to you, ladies and gentlemen, from our guest Patrick Wood, 1-800-848-9222. Let's now move on closer to the New York area. Let's go to Alexi in Queens. Good morning, Alexi. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you doing?
Yes, good morning. I am very intrigued which you have chosen to represent on your program. It is fascinating It is very fascinating. And my perception is this. You have to realize that almost more than 2/3 of the world, the people of this planet, are in extreme sub-poverty conditions, which you would be absolutely, if you saw with your eyes,
right,
be shocked and appalled. What about them? What about these people who are working for 3 cents a day to build sneakers? I mean, the economy in this country has gone to the point of a psychosis. Mm-hmm. They want to control this, they want to control that. But remember, if you take out a bill from your wallet and you look at it carefully in the obverse side, the front side, it says this is legal for all debts, public and private.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
So now what happens to the people if everything has become digital? Are they going to allow for savings? Are people going to allow to put $50 a week, $100 a week away, or say no? It's guaranteed. It's geared to spending. You have to spend everything. I know of some people, their children, they don't have any cash at all on them. No bills, no coins.
A lot of my young friends that I have, I mean, I'll almost be 70, not to, admit my total age, but hey, that's it. Proud to be that. But let me say this. In my generation, you had at least some advice to have some cash on hand. But you're so right, Alexei. Very, very few people have it. And then let's get Patrick involved in this because he's the go-to guy on this. And Alexei, let's carry on the conversation between the two of you. Patrick, I think he brings up some very, very pertinent points.
I would agree with you, and the rest of the world has been pressed down by development, economic development. That's legendary at this point. That's why the third world has been so hopping mad at us, in America especially. But that aside, there's been a leveling of the playing field at this point where our middle class is disappearing into some subclass at this point. And we know that AI is going to take lots of jobs away from people. The people in the industry, the AI industry, they sarcastically or cynically talk about the class of people being created as unemployables, not the unemployed, but the unemployables. Mm-hmm. These people will not have an income or ability to make an income. They will be subject to universal basic income at that point. This probably is going to be the fate of the whole world at some point. That they're just going to have to give people money, digital money especially, and what they'll do with that money, well, they're not going to be able to save it. Yes. That was an original tenet of technocracy. You couldn't save any money at all in their system. So there'd be no inheritance. There'd be no savings accounts like that. And if you spend your allotment, that's the end of you.
No, it's amazing, but I want to get Alexei back. He gets the last word here. But it's interesting, as we said before, Alexei, and I'm not joking around with this. I didn't make it up. Patrick has brought this to the table. The quote is, "You will own nothing and you will be happy." Alexei, you get the last word on this conversation. You bring in some intelligent points, of course, as every time you call.
Well, if you study Orwell, 1984, you will see that the slogans such as ignorance is peace and all such things like that, slavery is freedom, this is the same thing they are trying to use as lead-ins for the system to make it palatable to the public. They're saying, "Oh, you will have this and not that, but you will have that, but not this." What they need to do between you and me, and I do not mean this in any detrimental way to any human being or anyone, is that we need in this country to put these people out of business completely. They go after the guy for building the Tesla cars. They go crazy. They destroy his cars. Elon Musk, he's a prophet. The man is a prophet, a pure human prophet. But the thing is, what these people have to do, these other people with this digital currency and such, you have to go there, you get 50, 100, 200,000 people, and you take the building down and get rid of these. These are worse. In my country, where I came from, they try something like you have to control the money. You must keep a book of what you spend, and you could be called. You could be called to account on it, and if you do not, it does not make sense. You could be charged with a crime. It is the same logic.
No way to live, Alexei. No way to live. And, we say it again here. And I know many people wonder if they're tuning in saying, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be talking about cosmology? Yes, we're talking about the concept of what's happening to the world based on many of these nefarious things that our special guest Patrick Wood is bringing to the table, because we won't have a world. But, Alexei, I appreciate you. And again, it's all about this. I look at it this way: freedom, prosperity, and peace, not just for people in America, but it should be the tenet around the world. But I'm pretty optimistic, don't you think? Thanks, Alexei. Appreciate your commentary and your contribution. Hope you'll call us again on the Dr. Sky Experience. Patrick, we're almost up against the another break, I should say. But when we come back from this, I just want to have you tease this a little bit. You wrote a book. I'll tease it. This particular book you wrote, The Evil Twins of Technocracy and Transhumanism. Spot on. And when did you simply start? What gave you the spark about this? When did it happen for you that you're an economist? All of a sudden, one day, what happened in about a minute and a half, if you can do so much? I'm sure you can. Tell us.
Wow. Well, I started studying the Trilateral Commission and their new international order, economic order, in 1978 with Professor Anthony Sutton. Mm-hmm. And about 15 years ago, I got wind of this thing called technocracy, an economic system, the first economic system in the world ever created from scratch. I put two and two together and figured out that was what the Trilateral Commission was talking about in the first place. That's when I dropped everything I was doing at that point, and I took after my studies on technocracy. And here I am. That's like 15, 18 years later. I'm still talking about technocracy.
Wow. The books, of course, The Evil Twins of Technocracy and Transhumanism, Technocracy Rising, The Trojan Horse of Global Transformation, Technocracy, again, another separate book, The Hard Road to World Order, Trilateralist, over Washington, Volumes 1 and 2, and Globalization in the Crucible of Global Banking. So what's next on the agenda for you? I mean, you've got every day you write technology.news for people to get signed up, and we'll come back and talk about, you even offer a boot camp, if I'm correct, on this subject, where people can learn so much more than we can cram in a 2-hour program. So we appreciate you, Patrick Wood, and everybody out there. Ladies and gentlemen, plenty of time to get in your experiences, your opinion, your concerns, and I'm sure there are many at 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. Save that number, and let's see if we can do something very powerful here with the powerful signal of Talk Radio 77 WABC. Let's go far and wide. Maybe there's somebody out in the middle of nowhere driving, the truck drivers, the men and women who supply us with all our goods. I'm sure they're listening out there, and everybody around the nation, from New York City to all the states, to the 173 countries that are listening out there, and sure, who knows, maybe out into the cosmos. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We continue here at 48 minutes after the hour with an interesting quote from an author, Rosangel Perez, and it goes like this. Who do you listen to? Who influences your day-to-day decisions? Many of us are being led and misled away from our own thinking power. Incredible stuff with our special guest, Patrick Wood. Patrick, fascinating conversation. And again, we open the phone lines to you, ladies and gentlemen, at 1-800-848-9222 as we discuss these particular subjects. And always to remind everybody that there's 4 types of conversation. Of the 4, we appreciate dialogue, and that's why we, of course, welcome you to this particular town hall on the radio, if you'd like to call it. Let's now go to the callers, and let's say hello and good morning to LQ in the Bronx. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you this morning?
Fine. Good morning, Dr. Sky, and yes, good topic. The caller that mentioned the 1984 book is right on. I see it as a bully mentality, and you could see it in even in politicians. It's from men, politicians that make laws with no referendum. Is a bully mentality. Abortion, legalizing marijuana with no referendum. Also in MTA in the train system that they get from Japan, from other countries, that they have it is one man make it so there's no conductor, no train operator on the train. That's by plan, and you could see that's a bully mentality. It's not by votes. It's not letting the members decide. They just doing it.
Right, more technology and less people, right, LQ? Is that what you're saying? More forced decisions. Yeah. That's what you're trying to say, right?
But no peace, no freedom, and control. It's slavery.
Yeah, it's a shame, my friend. Patrick, LQ brings up some very good points, and more emotional, too. And you have every right, sir, to say that. And, Patrick, your response, I mean, it's overwhelming how people are concerned about this stuff.
We really are headed for a system of slavery. And I can't emphasize this enough. These people, certainly the policymakers at this point who are pressing technocracy upon us, nobody asked, there was no vote no discourse in anticipation of this. Nobody was asked if they wanted to go along with this stuff. We're just getting it's being shoved down our throat at this point, and people are not happy about it. And this caller just hits the nail on the head. I didn't ask for this. I didn't vote for it. I'm sick of it.
Terrible. LQ, you get the last word. I appreciate your call. I don't know if we've responded, but yours was more of a passion plea and an opinion. And go ahead and continue on because you get the floor.
No comment. You guys, you're amazing. You have all most of the answers. I'm just listening.
Thank you for being there. Hey, that's what makes this program good, and every one of the hosts that are on this powerful radio station, the opportunity for people to engage in what we call, it's almost like what, Patrick, like a little town hall meeting where we can have people call in and voice their opinions. And that's why I'm so proud to be part of this, because like I say, I keep repeating the conversational point that we like dialogue. Yeah, sure. If anybody out there disagrees with us, bring it on, and as long as we have a civil conversation, that's obviously the thing we want to hear. And I'll say this, Patrick, to appeal to people in the next hour, let's say there's people out there that totally think that we're pushing the buttons on this in a, conspiratorial way. I don't know how that would be, but just to be on the, quote, fair side of the equation, we would like to hear from maybe people. What about somebody out there who's really a well-invested, internet person who's very vested in software, and they make their living designing all these higher levels of technology? We're here to listen to why you may think that this is so important, because everybody needs to be heard, right, Patrick? That's what we're trying to do here. As fair as you can. I know it sounds crazy, because how many people are fair? Most people have a side, and the bias comes out in the first 30 seconds of a conversation, but we welcome it. There you go. So, Patrick, this is interesting to me. There's so many things that I wanted to talk with you about, but obviously you have so many things you wanted to share with us too. But here's the interesting thing. Talk for a few minutes before the top of the hour. This paranoia of AI and job losses, is that really something that people should be concerned about? And we don't want to sound alarmist here. From your position over there, you study this. Is this something that's going to take 20 years, 5 years? It's going to happen tomorrow? When are we, or even are we close to this point where so many layoffs are going to come because AI is just going to intercede? When and how, and if what? Tell us.
Well, we see job loss already across industry almost uniformly at this point. It's picking up steam for sure. But, for instance, Microsoft, that they've laid off like 15,000 people this year alone. this is a company that's been a huge employer over the years, and they've sucked up every engineer, software engineer in the universe probably. They're paring back because AI has taken up the slack. Salesforce, the giant sales company, they've had a hiring freeze. They don't want any more programmers at this point because AI is taking up the slack.
Yes.
Companies are laying off employees because of AI at this point, and it hasn't gone like ballistic at this point. But you can see the handwriting is on the wall. There's going to be a huge loss of jobs in the next 2 or 3 years, and it will be because AI is adopted by all these companies.
And you talk about something, too, I've read about this, a guaranteed, like, universal income for people. So doesn't that already take out the motivation for young people that are capitalists that want to build business? As we talk, many people who had nothing and grew up to build and sacrificed. Wouldn't that then simply take away that, you know, that drive? Because if you're getting a guaranteed income, why would you then even want to prosper to build even better? You're simply under what? The control of the digital slavery then. Don't you think?
That's exactly right, and this is the big problem. They haven't thought beyond the end of their nose about the problem. People want to work; they want to create. We're built for work, as a matter of fact. And if you deny people the ability to work at a meaningful job, they just lose heart. There's no way they can survive, at least in a sane way. And, you know, you take away all incentive. This is why we say technocracy is so anti-human. They're taking our will away from us, our free will, if you will, to choose our destiny. And this is where the big rub is. Nobody wants universal basic income. However, that's the only answer they have at this point. Well, we're just going to give everybody free money. Well, we don't want free money in the first place. We just don't want it.
Because there's no such thing as a free lunch, no matter how many people try to dissect that one. Obviously, there's a causation. You're getting a free guaranteed income, like I said before, not to be repetitive here as a host. But then that takes away the incentive for people to want to jump up out of bed, let's say, in the morning and say, I'm going to start a business. I want to build my idea and make it come to fruition. So that seemingly does exactly what you and I are talking about. And I'm, kind of interested to hear what the whole world thinks here on Talk Radio 77. WABC, 1-800-848-9222. We've just touched the tip of this incredible iceberg. And in this particular case, it's a very big one and a very powerful one. Our special guest, as we continue in hour number 2, of course, is Patrick Wood. His website, technocracy.news. So much information there, ladies and gentlemen, that you can, of course, expound on. And really quick, Patrick, we got about a minute and a half. Tell us about the boot camp that you offer. This is even amazing. I just read this, and I was amazed to see, and tell us about it.
Well, people ask me for a quick way to get into my studies on technocracy. So I created this boot camp. It's basically 25 hours of e-learning classes. You could take them at your leisure or fast as you want. And it covers all the history and all the recent developments on technocracy. So you come away with a complete view, a complete snapshot of what technocracy is. And that's why I did it. So there it is. It's cheap. It's free. Once you get on board with it, you can take it as many times as you want. And I have lots of people have been taking the course already. It's been a big hit.
We continue in hour number 2, ladies and gentlemen, with Patrick Wood, 1-800-848-9222. Don't be shy out there. Maybe we have some men and women driving trucks that they drive across the nation. We know the overnight radio. No matter where you are, it's still evening in the West Coast and places like that now. In the morning, more when we come back here on the Dr. Sky Experience. And thank ahead of time Tony and Bill navigating this powerful signal, because without them, ladies and gentlemen, this would be a rather monotone program. And we think not. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At 5 minutes after the hour, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Proud to be here as your humble host, Steve Cates, Dr. Sky, with the Dr. Sky Experience. Our 2-hour show continues. If you'd like to join us on the conversation, that is important to us as we consider conversation in 4 forms, but we like dialogue. The contact number, 1-800-848-9222. We continue with Patrick Wood, our very special guest. He, of course, talks about technocracy at technocracy.news to learn so much more about this guest that you will hear from time to time, more regular than not, on this particular radio archive. Just a heads up, management, of course, and the owner and operator, John Katzimatidis, has given me the opportunity to do a second hour, that is Saturday, midnight Eastern Daylight Time, to Sunday morning, 2 a.m., and to get back to some of the other topics that we talk about from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, and American exceptionalism. We will have, for the 2 hours, a very special guest on the latest in the UFO world with Doug Cupo, a member of MUFON, a former United States Navy captain working with the Defense Intelligence Agency, talking about so many of the things that are going on in the world of ufology and some of the great revelations. We'll also be talking about something that you may not have heard about. Some substance may be real or not, called gray goo and black goo. We don't make this stuff up. Patrick, thank you for joining us again. We continue to talk about these great subjects as kind of what? To warn people about what might be coming down the pike, and in a very intensified way with the advent of this technocracy, transhumanism, and such. You know, I looked up transhumanism here, and I found out that there was a gentleman in New York City, an Iranian-born gentleman, who actually went by the name, he changed his name to FM, like an FM radio, 2030. I guess that was about the year that he thought things would change. And what he did, he actually gave some extra emphasis to the term transhumanism. He taught, quote, the new concepts of the human at the New School and began to identify people who adapt technologies, lifestyles, worldviews transitional to this transhumanism subject. That's amazing. Did you ever know about this FM 2030 guy? That's kind of unusual. That is weird.
I don't think I ever heard of that, but I understand what the New School is.
Yes.
But nothing ever came out of there very good, for sure.
Well, we'll leave it to the audience to jump up and check out more details on who FM 2030 was in New York City, a futurist that went to the lines of, well, he believed the 3 pillars, as I mentioned before, were super intelligence, super longevity, and super well-being, but you might say different. Okay, let's jump in on the other topics that I wanted to get to with your help to help us navigate on this. So we're talking about this as far as AI, and you have an article that goes by the title this way: What if AI isn't intelligence, but anti-intelligence? Help us understand that better.
Well, this was an interesting article. The concept is, well, first off, AI is an oxymoron. We don't have, in other words, intelligence is something that's uniquely human. Artificial intelligence isn't really, it doesn't compute, put it that way. But, however, that's what they call it, okay? So what's happening when people use AI to do their thinking for them, when they can't go through the mental struggles, they call the friction of thought, stuff like that.
Right.
Well, their brain gets lazy, and all of a sudden they start to lose IQ points. That's when I say IQ, what it stands for, intelligent quotient, I think. And
yes.
Your IQ score actually goes down potentially the more they use AI in the first place. So it's anti-intelligence in that sense. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to experience that, but so many people, like young people, They're using it for their schoolwork. They use it for everything at this point, and they're losing their ability to think.
Well, it's kind of like what? How would you agree with me on this? It's like kind of a medicinal way to get people into the control factor that you're talking about. In other words, medicate me more with something that's doing the hard lifting or the heavy lifting so that I don't have to do it. And now we become what? We fall into that trap. And I don't think everybody would, but you fall into the trap that you, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's like, but you're talking about that it's anti-intelligence, right? It makes sense. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, it really is. And we see this across society. It's not just a youth thing, although that the youth are really impacted at this point with this business of having, your best friend be an AI program or a bot. That's really disturbing, but even adults are falling into this trap themselves.
Digital medication for my mind and mind control. Well, let's go. You're lighting up the phone lines, brother. Let's go say good morning to Steve in Manhattan. You're on with Patrick Wood. Good morning. And how are you this morning?
All right, gentlemen. Sky King and Patrick. AI is becoming another cottage industry. Listen, this is our technology. We're going to be the world leader in it. Sure, there's a lot of shenanigans that could go on, but that's always gone on in society. You always have people who are going to play, they're not going to be up on the level. They're not going to be on the table. And AI does make a lot of mistakes. People don't talk about that. And also, I never hear people like you guys ever complain. Like, let's say we're the best technical country in the world, and we are high tech. We have the most awesome arsenal of atomic weapons. We have a printing press that can blast out $100 bills, debit cards, all kinds of cash cards that we give out. No one ever complains about that. Do you realize the country's becoming third world, so the third world will be in charge of all that stuff? That's where the real problem is, not AI. AI is going to take us into the future, and I would say our cybersecurity is something that has to be really juiced up, so we can really slam the brakes on these other countries that do it to us every day. They hack into our computer systems and they turn this joint upside down. So AI is not the problem. The problem is the country becoming third world, and the third world being in charge.
I respect you, Steve. No, I respect your points. But before Patrick answers, I want to ask you a question. So when do we look at the possibility, without sounding paranoid from our side of the equation, where we have to put some checks and balances on AI? What would be your response to that before Patrick jumps in? Because what if, not to sound alarmist or conspiratorial, but what if AI decides to do everything against the best wishes of people? How would you respond to any of that? Where would your concern be?
All right. Well, first of all, AI does not exist without the human touch. Okay, and it's powered through our generators and our power plants and everything. It would not exist without us. So I'm not worried about that aspect. Okay. They're not going to go overboard. They're not going to take over the country. The third world is taking over the country. That's why I think sometimes that you guys are putting up this veneer, this shade of excluding what's really happening and telling people, watch out, the computer's going to eat your lunch. No, that's not going to happen. Go ahead.
Hey, Steve, that's why we love dialogue. And here now, ladies and gentlemen, is Patrick Wood to respond to what you're talking about, Steve. Patrick, this is interesting.
Well, it is. And, I agree with you probably, Steve, that we should have some checks and balances because basically the AI, there's many flavors or let's say sections of AI. For instance, you can use AI for research as a great research tool. You can find stuff on the internet and make sense of it, lickety split for sure. But as a control mechanism, it can digest huge amounts of data and analyze that data to make a feedback loop to control the source of the data in the first place. This is not the human touch. This is automation at its worst.
And here's Steve in Manhattan. Sorry to cut you short, Patrick, to get the last word as we move on here, gentlemen. But, Steve, you get the last word on this. This is an interesting conversation. I like hearing this.
Okay, what I would be worried about would be people working for corporations, the big computer software programs and everything, and they have bad intentions, and they get into our AI, and they come here from other countries, or they're just people here who hate America already. That could be a problem, but that could be easily addressed with a better cybersecurity force. And guys, the third world is taking over the country.
Steve, I appreciate your commentary and your opinions. I hope you'll continue to join us in future iterations of the Dr. Sky Experience. Thank you, Steve in Manhattan. Let's say good morning as we move over to New Jersey. Good morning, Diane in New Jersey. You're on with Patrick Wood.
Yeah, hi. I'm so excited to talk to both of you. Patrick Woods, I hear you with Catherine Austin Fitz.
Thank you.
That makes me more nervous listening to all that. But anyway, I just want to say, I think people need to know, with the World Economic Forum and these groups, how a lot of these politicians that are, right out in front of us, there's a woman running for governor in New Jersey. She's a young global leader from the World Economic Forum, the Democratic candidate. Then you got Newsom, Buttigieg, Stefanik from New York. So it's not just Democrats. Trump's daughter is one of them. There's a million of them. Bono. I mean, and those are people that are out influencing everybody, and people vote for them. The guy that just became the Prime Minister of Canada, he's bad news. It's we're surrounded.
Yeah, right.
Diane. Hope.
No, Diane, I want to give you some positivity, but I got to ask you a question. It's amazing with all what we're talking about here, Patrick and myself. Obviously, I'm trying to be positive. Patrick knows the answers better than me. But the thing is, why, Diane, do these people believe that this globalism is this great thing? I mean, since when did that become the best thing for people who want freedom, prosperity, and peace? Isn't that the anti of everything, Diane? I think you expressed your concern.
Yeah. And by the way, Dr. Sky, why don't you talk about the sky, what's going on in the sky also? That's part of all this, the transhumanism. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All the symbology in the heavens.
Yeah, well, you're always telling us, look up to the sky to see stuff, but you can't see it because they're spraying the skies all the time with all this crap,
Diane, so I'm so appreciative of this. No, I'm so appreciative of you and the radio station to give me this amount of time. But you know what? To do this even better, we'd have to do 24 hours of broadcast. But I promise we'll get back to those themes and we'll be talking about it, because with the floods in Texas, we have a lot of people that have talked about their blame, and I don't know necessarily if that's the answer, because it may not be something I believe in. What is the bottom line here with the things going on in the atmosphere? We'll be talking about that. But, Diane, before you go, I wanted Patrick to respond to you.
Well, I would like to ask, Steve, I would like to ask you a question, I think, in light of this. How have the 25,000 plus satellites that are in orbit right now, most because of Elon Musk and his SpaceX company.
Correct.
How has this changed our view of the heavens?
Oh, unfortunately, Diane, now we're on a subject that I know you love even more than the topic, but not to put words in your mouth. What's happening to both Diane and to you, Patrick, is that we're clustering so many satellites up there that the possibility of collisions may become more prevalent in our future. Now, we have this big band of geosynchronous satellites that if you looked at the Earth in a little different way, the Earth technically has a ring. And there's a phenomenon, this is going out more to Diane, this goes on to the subject matter of something called the Kessler effect. And what's that? When one satellite hits another, it's like billiard balls on a table. You could have a mass destruction of satellites in the heavens. When is enough? And from the astronomical side, what you're asking about, Patrick, astronomers taking deep sky photographs of the heavens are actually, putting their middle finger to the sky. I'm not being exaggerative, because they're trying to get an image of a faint galaxy, and guess what's photobombing the image? Hundreds of satellites crossing the picture.
I know.
So it's too crowded up there. But Diane, they're also doing something. I mean, this is not going to happen tomorrow, but you get more satellites up there. When one hits another, you're going to have a big debris field up in the heavens, and that's not a good thing. And that's not what we're talking about in any way, shape, or form, like contrails. And that's a whole other subject, right, Diane?
Exactly.
Contrails. and it's it's not
chemtrails. Excuse me, I picked.
No, I know, like, people use contrails to try to dispute that what's really going on.
Yes, you're very much on top of it. No, you are.
Oh, I listen to everything. I drive myself crazy all the time.
Well, Diane, I'm with you, and I'm on the same highway, and I think Patrick is. Do you have a closing comment? Because we don't want to cut you short. We appreciate the callers. Yeah, go ahead.
You gave me so much time. I'm thrilled to talk to Patrick Woods. Like he Patrick Wood. I can't even say, like, when I heard him on your show a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, this is unbelievable, because I've only heard you on like I think were you on Guns and Butter or something like that a while ago. Do you know that show? That's where I first heard you, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like so disturbed, and like I'm old, and I'm happy I'm old, because I don't think I want to be alive in this world.
Well, hang on, Diane. Hey, listen, hang on, because let me tell you something. If there was a prize, and I'm not trying to bend Patrick's arm, you'd probably get the prize for being one of the most loyal listeners to Patrick Wood so far. There you go, right, Patrick?
Sounds like it to me. Thank you for being a listener.
Diane, I appreciate you, and I hope you'll continue to call us here. And we love dialogue. Isn't that a great way to say it, instead of debate? You have so many people yelling and screaming at each other nowadays. At least we're having civil conversation. We may not all agree, but I love it. And Diane, God bless you. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate your time. Let's continue on. The caller board lights up, and we appreciate that. Let's say good morning to Frank in the great state of Maine. Good morning. You're on with Patrick Wood.
Good morning, Dr. Sky. Always a pleasure to speak to you. And Patrick Wood, wow, you're blowing my mind. My comment, and everybody else, all the other callers are talking about globally. And I'm trying to process this metaphor of transhumanism and the automation. I'm looking at it as locally, the self-driving cars, the self-driving trucks, the AI that students are using in schools now. My question is, how much of this technology will be hacked, and how much will affect these vehicles that are self-driving and self-thing, and the students? Because I have a 14-year-old, and he uses AI. I mean, I hate to say that. I don't want him to.
He knows more about it than you do, right? There you go.
And he knows more about it than I do, totally. And, he's like, oh, Dad, it's better than reading a book. Okay, all right, whatever. I don't know. I said, don't trust it. Always read. Always do what you got to do, to enlighten your mind. Read at least 3 or 4 different opinions before you come up with your own. But nevertheless, he uses AI, and half the kids in this 90%, I would say more than half of them, almost 3/4 of them. Mm-hmm. So my question is, locally, not globally, because globally we all know that not the last call, but the call before that was talking about the third world and what that's going to transpire into. Locally, how would that affect the populace of metropolitan areas? I mean, if you're talking about a self-driving truck and someone can control that truck and someone can control your car and you don't have your hands on the steering wheel and someone doesn't like you, pretty much you're gone.
You're 100% right. And I want Patrick to respond, but let's also go down the path, really. I don't want to take away from his time, Frank. Look at the drone situation.
Oh, absolutely not. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm saying drones, look at how they've been militarized. I mean, you had these little things you bought for, I don't know, $200, $300. And now look at Ukraine. Look at other nations around the world, Iran, ourselves using drones. But what happens all of a sudden if you just weaponize those things and they're out of control? But your point about trucks and automated cars, we have them here in Arizona. You got them up wherever you live. Patrick, the concerns that Frank brings up, what say you?
Well, they can be hacked for sure. I'm not so worried about like a third party hacking in. I'm more concerned about what the government or police forces can do with autonomous vehicles. For instance, if you're a lawbreaker or you have a warrant out for your arrest, something like that, and you're driving in a car, maybe yours, maybe not, but maybe like Uber or a Waymo or something like that, and you're identified going into that car, well, that car, there's no driver, but that car could just conveniently drop you off at the police station. Mm-hmm. And you're forced then to deal with your the ticket or whatever they're after you for. That's not something you want to do. You don't want that kind of control handed over to somebody in authority to say, to track you everywhere you go. And if they don't like where you go, then they can say, well, you're not going to go there, or here, we're going to take you to the police department or whatever, and we're going to arrest you for something.
No, you bring it up. You bring up some good points, Patrick. But Frank, before we go, because we're short on time right now, and we love the conversation. My big concern is I'm driving, let's say, down an interstate here in Arizona or anywhere in the country, and let's say, Frank, this 80,000-pound autonomous truck is driving behind me. I'm going to stay clear of that thing. I'm going to try to pass it and go, down the road away from it. But you get the last word on this. You bring up some good points, and we appreciate you calling us on the Dr. Sky Experience. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah. Yes. My last point is, as much as we try to avoid it, and I totally agree, stay away from that truck. As much as you try to avoid it, you can't, because most of the younger generation, and not me, I mean, even me, anybody else, of course, we're looking at our phones, or they're looking at their phones more like it's not even, it's like an addiction. It's beyond an addiction. It's more like a trance. And
digital medication. Digital medication, Frank.
It's digital medication, but it's a scary digital medication because it becomes like an addiction. It's like a drug. So if you can look at a little box on a phone, what makes us believe that the younger generation is just going to not accept this type of technology and
exactly.
Say, poof.
The more you use it, the more you'll like it. And obviously, look, not to attack young children or young, adolescents. Obviously, they seem to be way more susceptible that if you pulled the internet and did the kill switch, many of them would be lost. And so many other people, I might be lost too because I'm so dependent on it. I'm just as guilty in many ways. Frank in Maine, appreciate you always. And thank you for being part of our program. Hope you'll call us again and stay active with all these subject matters that we talk about. You have a good morning. Thank you, sir. Well, Patrick, we're going down this road. It's a big and very powerful story that we're talking about here, in your opinion. Again, Patrick Wood, technocracy.news. And this radio station, for you out there, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the hard break, want to get in touch with us, have something to say in our form of dialogue? 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. When we come back, Patrick, we've got so many other subjects to talk about. And one of the things that you were kind of alluding to in an article that I read, Peter Thiel discusses the Antichrist and transhumanism. We'll save that one when we come back from the break here. But this is so fascinating, Patrick. I mean, I'm sure everywhere you go, you do a lot of public speaking in conferences and seminars. We got about a minute, so go ahead and tell us.
Yes, yeah, indeed. I talk frequently on regular venues, like on YouTube channel, Rumble, etc. And I love these dialogues that you're sponsoring on your radio program. I wish there was more of this going on today, but so many people they want to consume stuff, but they don't want to be part of the dialogue.
Well, we're trying to have that dialogue.
Exactly. This needs to change across America. This needs to change.
Well, like they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I know that sounds a little ludicrous to some out there because we're not talking about elephants, but using that descriptive analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, much more to come here as we move toward the top of the next hour. Here with Patrick Wood on a show that we're so grateful that we do have here on this powerful station, reaching far and wide, with the helmsmen that help make it happen, Bill and Tony. Behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen, there's always great people helping to navigate this signal to make the show sound as good as humanly possible. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Globalization was a tactic rather than a strategy. The strategy was control and termination of Homo sapiens as we know it. A quote from James Tunney, author of many books, including Empire of Scientism. 32 minutes after the hour, we race toward the top of the hour, but still time, ladies and gentlemen, for you to get in with our special guest in our form of dialogue conversation. Let's now say and welcome Eddie in Florida, hopefully nowhere near Alligator Alcatraz. Good morning, Eddie. How are you?
Yeah, Dr. Sky. No, I'm in Tampa.
Oh, good. Then you're far away.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
First time caller on your show, but I call it WABC many times on other shows. But
we appreciate it.
I am doing side gigs. I'm financially established, so I don't need to get a full-time work. But for people who do, AI is separating these applications. You know, that's not a person that's separating applications, and it's going to be more difficult for people to find work. That's my concern.
Interesting. Patrick?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's going to drive the have-nots out of the market, the job market altogether. That's very disturbing because this has never happened in the history of the job market in the first place. You know, people talk about, well, when automobiles came along, you know, the buggy makers they went out of business and whatever. This is not like that, not at all, because this is changing the fabric of employment across the country.
Yes, Eddie, this is a fascinating conversation. You know, it's amazing. A lot of people can't even get their, hand and mind around this whole concept, good and bad. I mean, I'm sure there's some value to AI. I could probably list a few, but Eddie, you get the last word on this. Tell us more, because I think you're bringing up some good points.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think now with the AI, and I've never been a fan of modern technology. I used an ATM once, never tweeted or used social media. I remember seeing the show, The Young Riders. The guy says to the guys that deliver the mail by horse, the Pony Express, when the telegraph gets here, you guys are out of a job. I just remember that word.
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting. Eddie, I appreciate you. I mean, this is interesting conversation. You know, like we said, we love dialogue, and you're giving us some. And, well, how's Florida these days? I mean, it's a beautiful state. I enjoyed my time there along the coast, like Ormond Beach and Daytona. But you're on the other side, right? That's the Gulf side, correct? Did we lose you? Sorry, Eddie. I think no, go ahead, Eddie. Okay, sorry there. Well, thank you, Eddie, for calling us. Let's say good morning to Robert in Philadelphia. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you this morning?
Hi, Dr. Sky. It's good to talk to you again, and thank you for your guest. I think the whole thing is fascinating. They bring up these things insofar as improving the human species. I like to watch Ancient Aliens. I think it's interesting. And they were talking about this as a matter of improving the species. And I'm an older guy, and I'm happy to wait. I don't want anybody to take away my Fruit Loops, but I understand the future's going to go on. This is going to go on, and that's fine. And I see a lot of benefits to us as humans, especially in the medical field when it comes to these things. Yes. However, my question is whether or not you agree that all this will be beneficial to the human race. Our problem is that there is no public trust in the entities that would make this happen. And this applies to anything that has a technological edge to it, because it's sort of like with a computer, it's garbage in, garbage out. But with something like this, it could be corruption in, and who knows what comes out. And that's one of my. Are we really ready for all this? When I look at us as the human race, are we are there people that can be trusted to honestly do the right thing with all this? Whether you agree with the ethics or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it. I mean, that's amazing, as I was bringing up to some other caller that we had throughout the 2 hours here. That's interesting. It's great to say that, we're not here as conspiracy people, hardly, and Patrick certainly not. But it's interesting. Who do you trust? This is an interesting. Patrick, this is great, responding to Robert. Go right ahead.
Well, he's talking about an adult view of things. Who do we trust? Well, basically, at this point, nobody. However, young people today, they don't have the ability to understand what we're talking about at all. They're going merrily on their way, thinking everything is just going to be fine, and AI and all this other stuff is just the great stuff, and they don't see the traps coming.
Amazing.
Well, I'm sorry if I could get in. I agree. The future is something I look forward to, but I don't want to become the Borg. Do you know what I'm saying?
You bet. Yeah.
I don't want to lose our humanity in all this, because that's what sets us apart in this great universe of ours. And Dr. Sky, I love your show. We'll continue to listen and call. Thank you to your guest, and I love kicking that around with you guys.
Robert, I appreciate you, believe me, and everybody else who's called, but I know that you call other programs here, and I hear your voice when I'm driving around, and everything that you're saying here makes, complete sense here. I mean, what happens if young people just think this is great? Be careful, Robert, of the genie in the bottle. What kind of genie is it? And then, Patrick, you know better than any of us, that genie may not necessarily be the friend that we really want, but be careful for what you wish for, right?
Exactly.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate your time, and hope you'll continue to call us on the Dr. Sky Experience. Patrick, boy, I'll tell you, we go from A to Z on the caller board here with everybody who's jumped in here. Still more time, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel that you'd like to express yourself in the form of dialogue. Anything that we're saying here with great questions, 1-800-848-9222. We continue on to the top of the hour. I wanted you to give us a quick response, or a response, to what Peter Thiel was talking about, and that was kind of interesting to me. And what was he saying in your article? Basically, to set it up, Peter Thiel discusses the Antichrist and transhumanism. Tell us about that. That's pretty bizarre.
Well, here I know, it really is. And here's a guy who is so confused about religious things. And he's talking about the Antichrist, the Armageddon, but not in the sense that a normal Christian would talk about it.
Okay.
But he talks about it from a transhumanist point of view, and he basically, in his mind, well, we're going to get through this. He says somehow we're going to conquer death as a disease. They think that that's a disease that can be conquered.
Gee, I don't know how to stop that. Right?
So they're going to have a breakthrough at some point, and everything is going to be okay. This is not the guy you want to turn to for religious insight.
Well, Patrick, give us an analysis of who Peter is for many of the listeners that maybe don't even know who we're talking about. Define him to us in a short period of time.
Well, exactly. Peter Thiel is the architect of the technocracy that's taking over Washington, D.C., even as we speak. He was a guy that he's the co-founder of Palantir. That's the intelligence company that's sweeping the world right now. He's the guy that's invested money in J.D. Vance to be a politician in the first place, and he promoted him to be the vice president pick with Trump. Mm-hmm. And at this point, he has a huge contract with so many agencies right now. It's amazing. But Trump has tapped Peter Thiel to provide the software with Palantir to put all the databases together in one huge lump. That's all the treasury, the health records, you name it. And this is not what we voted for in the first place. But he's a kingpin at this point. He's a deal maker par excellence, and he's a billionaire, of course, as well. He's an arch technocrat. His influence at this point is just over the top in Washington, D.C.
I agree. We had a candidate in Arizona here, Blake Masters, who I think was also tutored or financed by the gentleman you're talking about, I think also. Am I correct if you followed that?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Fortunately, he bombed here. That doesn't mean he won't be back. I'm sure he will be.
Nothing against Blake. I mean, somebody mentioned it wrong. They said they thought he was part of Brake Masters, which fixed car brakes. But I said, no, his name is Blake Masters. Not to be funny, but I think somebody might get a laugh out of that, but not to attack the gentleman in any way, shape, or form. But that is interesting. We talk about this stuff, Patrick. Again, your website, technocracy.news, has so much. We could spend 52 hours and then still not complete an analysis of all this. So that's going on in Washington. I mean, I wasn't really up on all that. So Peter is very instrumental in seeing that a lot of these policies go on for the the technoid part of the world. I mean, he's very powerful, obviously.
He is, and he has his hands on so many things in Washington, D.C., especially our data at this point. All of the data flows that were secured by organizations like Doge, when everybody should have and understand what Doge did, but they freed up the data flows from all these agencies that they went into. Now, Palantir has a contract to put it all together in one huge database, and this will become an intelligence system to the government. And the question is, of course, do you really want the government to have this kind of data at their fingertips? Really?
No, especially if they take away cash, and especially if they have recordings of every single transaction you do. I don't have anything to hide, but I do value the three things we started this radio show off with before, and I didn't invent them, ladies and gentlemen. The three things all mankind is seeking are freedom, prosperity, and peace. What's wrong with that? We'll come back with Patrick Wood and your calls, ladies and gentlemen, as we move to the top of hour 2, 1-800-848-9222. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Conquer your fears once and for all, or continue to be conquered forever. Another quote from James Tunney, the author of The Dispiriting Conspiracy and Inevitable Tyranny of Scientocracy. 48 minutes after the hour, we're with Patrick Wood, and he's with us. Still time if you want to jump in on the conversation in the form of dialogue at 1-800-848-9222. Patrick, so many things to talk about, such limited amount of time. You have an article that I find fascinating, too, at technocracy.news. RFK. Everybody is talking about him, of course, managing and trying to get rid of these certain chemicals and things in our food. Kudos to him. But he was talking about, in your article, every American hooked up with a special type of device in 4 years. Tell me this is not something that we invented somewhere. Talk about that. This is amazing.
I know. This is kind of stunning in a way. Of course, Robert Kennedy ran in the first place to take over the healthcare system, and he's doing a probably good job of it.
Yes, I agree.
Admission, but he said this on national TV recently that he wants to have every American hooked up to the internet with a wearable device that collects your health information. Things like the Apple Watch, with a Fitbit, the Android Watch, etc. There's many devices on the market right now, and they're usually specialty things. You know, some people do them because the doctor says that you should monitor something. But to have everybody hooked up all of a sudden, even in 4 years, to a system that could harvest everybody's data at the same time, that's really insane. But
it is
exactly what he said on national TV. I couldn't believe it.
Well, I give him a lot of credit for doing the things with taking out the different colored dyes, I guess, in food and helping us to be healthier. But that's amazing. Right. That's like a total diametric comment from moving forward with the good things. I agree with you there, and I wonder what the people out there think. That's a totally amazing thing. We'll have to follow up, and I'm sure you will in our next report with you on this particular subject. But here's one as we move to the top of the hour. Here we go. This is amazing. Your story about digital workers in banks alongside humans. What's that all about?
Well, that's exactly right. At this point, AI has the ability to create an assistant for you at the bank. And this assistant it's just like a person. You won't see him, but you can pass tasks for him to do and then report back to you the results of that task. That means at this point that AI is always ready to serve you as an employee. And of course, the implication is, was there somebody who did that job before and they're not there anymore? And so the AI basically took their job away from them, and you have the benefit of this. So that's really crazy.
That is bizarre. But on a more human note, I go shop like everybody, grocery store, and I find, I try to get the best price. Why wouldn't I? Like everybody should. But here's the situation. A lot of the locations that are shopping have these digital platforms for people, the apps. And not that I'm against any technology, but would you not agree? You don't have to agree, and the audience out there has their opinion. But wouldn't it be just easier to give seniors who really, truly, you talk to so many seniors, you should hear them when I'm walking up the aisles and down the aisles. They're like, this darn thing, I can't get it to work. So what happens, Patrick? They go to the register, they hold the line up. Not that I am that important, but the thing is, shouldn't we just give the seniors the best price? Why mess around with that thing? What say you on a human level? Maybe I'm wrong. Well, I don't know. That's just, I try to be a human here, right? That's what I am.
Exactly. It's so sad today. I think that the electronic, the kiosks that are taking over on many shopping experiences, grocery stores, doesn't matter where it is, but restaurants, this is so oblique to most seniors at this point.
True.
That they just throw their hands up and say, I'm not going to come back to this place again.
That's exactly right. So isn't that simply counterproductive? I mean, look at the purchasing power that the senior groups have. I mean, whether people go to AARP, the joint, they have a more conservative group, I guess, that is out there if you don't want to go to AARP and others. But the point is, it's just seemingly bothersome. And then here's another one, without naming corporations, because that's not the fair thing to do here. I'm not attacking anybody. It's just that I heard one that I shop at regularly that has a membership base, the way philosophy that they set it up. One of them in Arizona here says, we're building a brand new store at such and such a location. And I go, that's exciting. It's closer to me. But guess what? They tell you, no cash will be allowed. It'll be 100% digital. Wait a minute. Why do I want to do that if I don't like it, right? They're going to lose people. Or do they think that majority of the people, maybe they would, go hook, line, and sinker to that? Who knows, right, Patrick?
You're exactly right. I know there's many stores in Phoenix, Arizona, and Gilbert, Mesa, et cetera, who are not accepting cash at this point. They say only credit cards or debit cards. This is really disturbing because on the money that I have in my wallet, it says it's all for all debts, public and private.
Exactly.
So if I want to buy something, or I go to a restaurant and I have a meal, I owe them the money at that point. But you can't pay them in cash. They just refuse it.
And how do you get it? Yeah. How do you get a refund the old traditional way? You have to wait and trust that machine is going to process the credit. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. I'd rather have somebody that says, here, you give them a receipt. You take the item. They give you your money back and cash. If you did cash, give it back. But again, I don't know. It's maybe I'm complaining too much and I should just fall into the digital, medication. No, I'm not. There you go, Patrick. I'm not.
I'm with you on this, I'll tell you what.
And I know you're not. We're going to sum up here, Patrick. we'd promised people something and we haven't done it, and we have to do our job, at least from my side. I want to. What are some of the positives? How can people stay alert? And what can they do about this? You got a few minutes to talk about it.
Go local. Go local. Don't worry about the national scene. You don't worry about, arguing politics with people at the national level. Go to your local communities and convince your leaders in that community, wherever you are. It doesn't matter. You have to live somewhere. Convince your local leaders to protect you from all this nonsense that's going on. There are many things that they can do if they're aware of what's coming at them. But most of them just don't have a clue in the first place. And until citizens get off their butt and go to them and either complain or educate them, maybe they're just waiting for somebody to come and tell them what's going on. Yeah, but people could make a difference in their local community, and now's the time to do that.
Yes. Yeah, you're right, Patrick, but I hope more people would get that message. And obviously, we're not standing on a soapbox. This is something that we both believe in very strongly about the way things are changing in the world. And then it also goes to our next episodes that we'll hopefully do with you, if you agree. I'd like to talk about what's happening in the private sector when it comes to home ownership, what's happening with land confiscation. I was told, and I hope I have it right, that the California fires, a lot of the, administrative, political people in Southern California are looking to turn a lot of those expensive properties into multi-use, big giant apartment complexes. Well, I don't know if that's the right thing to do, or should people have a choice in saying yes, they like it, or no, they don't? What's happening there?
Yeah, exactly. This is a great topic to explore. Yeah. Great topic.
Land grabs, and then look at it this way. You have HOAs out there, and a lot of people may not like me. We've had HOAs in the homes we have, and we decided to get out of one of those for simply one reason. Mm-hmm. In the property, we have 1.5 acres or 2 acres, and we just chose not to go with a HOA type situation because we like, again, the things that I've been talking about, and I'm not that important. But we started the show off with the 3 things that mankind is seeking, and I don't think I'm wrong. I'm proud to say it. Freedom, prosperity, and peace. Why can't we have that? Isn't that the question that should be answered?
It sure is. That's the only question at this point that needs to be answered.
Well, Patrick, I appreciate you. And technocracy.news is the location to get in touch with you. And any new books coming up that we'll be looking forward to seeing that you're writing and publishing. Tell us more.
I'm hopeful there will be a book forthcoming, perhaps in 2 months from now. I won't say what it's about, but you might have a guess that has something to do with technocracy.
That sounds good to me. Patrick, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and I'm sure you'll be back with us as we, of course, schedule time with you regularly to talk about this most important subject. So thank you. Blessings to you and your family and everybody listening. And we conclude, ladies and gentlemen, with a very brief analysis. What most of the people wanted to hear, too, is an analysis of what's happening in the sky. And for the detailed report, go to the Dr. Sky Experience podcast, and that, of course, at WABCRadio.com. You can hear all the good things that are going on in the heavens, such as the moon is now fading. You have an opportunity, if you're on vacation, ladies and gentlemen, out in the darker locations to see the darkness of the nighttime sky with the beauty of the summer Milky Way. Thanks to you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the Dr. Sky Experience. Our next program that we'll do in less than 24 hours, we'll be talking with Doug Cupo of MUFON, former Navy captain, working with the Defense Intelligence Agency, UFOs, and much more. Thank you for listening. Clear skies, health and happiness to all.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Sky Experience. You can hear the Dr. Sky Experience Saturday mornings, midnight to 2 a.m. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?